A month after Mom died, Dad married his mistress, and moved her kids into our house. Now he expects me to give up my room and be their babysitter. Hi, I am here to know if what I have done is right by asking my father to move out of my house. For context, sometime after I turned 12, my parents got a divorce because my father was cheating on my mom with a much younger woman. I will call her Sarah since I don't want to use her real name. I remember the day vividly when I came back home from school early. I had a half day and my mom had given me keys to her house so I could let myself in. We did have a babysitter but she wasn't home yet so I thought she was running late. I heard some noise from my parents' room and I got scared. I ran to get the phone to call 911 when I suddenly heard my dad's voice from upstairs. Curious, I went up to my parents' room to see my dad and this woman, Sarah, throwing their clothes back on. It was honestly scarring and I gasped in shock audibly. They froze seeing my face. I ran out of there immediately and locked myself in my room. I burst into tears as my dad kept pleading with me outside my door to open up so he could apologize. He kept telling me to not tell my mom anything. Before I could say anything or react, I heard my mom yelling downstairs. I opened the door to see my mom standing in the doorway looking at my dad angrily. Apparently, the babysitter had canceled at the last minute so my mom had rushed in from the office after taking a half day so I wouldn't be home alone. She had discovered Sarah trying to get into Dad's car outside and had put two and two together. My dad had driven them to the house thinking that nobody would be home at this time. When my mom noticed that I was home and had tears running down my face, she realized that I must have caught my dad and chewed my dad out. My dad kept apologizing and trying to justify how he didn't mean to hurt us. Despite all the yelling back and forth, my dad said he had to go and drop Sarah back at the office. My mom couldn't believe his words that in the middle of our fight, he was going to walk off and drop his mistress. My mom told him that Sarah could take a cab but my dad insisted saying that he couldn't let her do that. My mom's eyes widened in shock upon hearing his words and my dad left. This affair was very unexpected as my mom and dad had been together for a very long time. His mistress was a woman he worked with who was 20 years younger than him. I don't know what she wanted out of him but I guess it was so important that she had to destroy our family over it. Over the days through several fights, my dad eventually confessed to my mom that Sarah was pregnant. This was devastating for my mom to hear as my mom always had pregnancy-related issues and had miscarried twice after having me. He wanted Sarah to keep the child and had made up his mind about leaving us to start a family with him. This led to a nasty divorce between them. My dad tried to get a hefty alimony from my mom. You see, my mom comes from an affluent family but my dad doesn't. In the divorce, my dad wanted our house and wanted to kick my mom out but because he had cheated, he lost the battle. Throughout all this, my mom tried her best to shield me from what my dad was doing to her but I was old enough to know what was happening. It was a really difficult time for me. Throughout the divorce, my dad never once apologized to my mom or me for what he had put us through. My mom didn't want to separate me from my dad so she allowed him weekend visitation. After the divorce happened my father moved out and started living with Sarah. In the beginning, my dad tried his best to visit me during the weekends. He tried to be sweet and spend time with me doing things that I loved. But as days passed, he started to smell of alcohol and I hated the nauseating smell. I remember once when we went to get ice cream, my dad fell asleep on the bench outside the shop. I was so scared that something had happened to him that I called my mom immediately. When she arrived, she could smell the alcohol in him like I did and realized quickly that he was too drunk to drive and had fallen asleep. She called Sarah from Dad's phone to come and pick him up and brought me back to the house. As you can imagine, my mom was royally pissed off at my dad for putting me through danger. My mom wanted me to have a good relationship with my father regardless of their divide, but for him to drink and drive had put not only him but me at risk. Later, when my dad was sober, he didn't even bother apologizing to my mom. He kept saying that he just wanted a nap and that wasn't a crime. My mom warned him to not drink on the days he had to come and see me and my dad agreed. After this incident, I was scared to go anywhere with my dad. Although my dad kept his promise for a while, he slipped back into his old habits very soon. His drinking changed him. I quickly realized that my dad when he was drunk and my dad when was sober were two very different people. I remember one summer weekend, which was my 14th birthday, it was my dad's weekend. My mom asked if she could have me for the weekend as she wanted to take me and my friend to a music event in the city. She knew I loved a particular singer and this singer was going to be performing at the event, hence she wanted to take me there as a birthday present. My dad refused, saying no way, this was his weekend. So off to Dad's place, we went. His mistress didn't even acknowledge my birthday and ignored my presence as usual. I had gotten used to it by now. In the afternoon, my dad suddenly informed me that he was taking me to the music event.